What happened in that courtroom sent shockwaves through American true crime culture. A little girl vanished, and a mother lied for more than 30 days. The state asked for a murder conviction without a proven cause of death. The defense asked jurors to doubt everything the public thought they knew. Welcome to Gavel Files, where justice tells its story. Today, we examine the case of State of Florida versus Casey Marie Anthony. It is a trial remembered for grief, rage, and unanswered questions. It is also remembered for the power of reasonable doubt. According to court documents reveal, Casey Marie Anthony was a 22-year-old mother in Orlando. She lived in a home tied to the Anthony family with constant tension. Her parents, George and Cindy Anthony, helped with money and child care. Friends described Casey as charming and also skilled at deception. The evidence showed she fabricated work stories and invented a nanny. Kaylee Anthony was 2 years old, bright, and closely bonded to her grandparents. According to testimony, Kaylee was often seen with Cindy at family gatherings. But behind that normal picture sat instability and conflict. Casey wanted independence, but relied on others to survive. That dependence fed resentment, and it fed lies. According to court documents reveal, Kaylee was last seen in June 2008. Casey did not call police that day. She did not call the next day. Days became weeks, and the child remained unseen. Prosecutors argued that silence was the first proof of guilt. The defense maintained that panic can look like cruelty. When Cindy finally called 911 in July 2008, her fear sounded raw. According to testimony, Cindy said the car smelled like a dead body. She also said she had not seen Kaylee in weeks. That call became a national soundbite, replayed again and again. It framed the case as a mother hiding a corpse. Investigators arrived to a family home filled with arguments and confusion. Court documents reveal Casey claimed Kaylee was with a nanny named Zenaida Gonzalez. Officers tried to verify the story. The evidence showed the nanny trail led nowhere. Names, addresses, and jobs collapsed under basic scrutiny. Casey also claimed she worked at Universal Studios. According to testimony, detectives drove her there to confirm it. She walked them through halls, then admitted it was a lie. That moment changed the tone of the investigation. It suggested a person who could lie calmly under pressure. It also raised the question of what else was invented. The incident that triggered criminal action was not one single event. It was the widening gap between a missing child and a mother who acted unbothered. According to testimony, Casey was seen partying during the missing period. Prosecutors argued that behavior showed consciousness of guilt. The defense maintained it showed immaturity, not murder. Then came the car. Court documents reveal the family vehicle contained a strong odor. Experts later debated what that odor meant. The evidence showed investigators collected hair, stains, and air samples. Each test became a battlefield of science and interpretation. To the public, the smell alone felt like a verdict. As July moved into August, pressure tightened from every direction. Media vans filled streets near the Anthony home. Tip lines exploded with claims, sightings, and rumors. Casey gave interviews and statements that did not hold. Prosecutors argued she performed grief without truth. The defense maintained she was a young woman drowning in fear. But what happened next would change everything. Investigators expanded the search beyond neighborhoods and friends. According to court documents reveal, law enforcement tracked phone records and internet activity. They also examined the family computer for searches and timelines. The evidence showed searches that prosecutors linked to chloroform. The defense maintained the searches were misunderstood and misattributed. A grand jury returned an indictment on first-degree murder. It also returned charges for aggravated manslaughter of a child. It added aggravated child abuse. Prosecutors argued the totality of circumstances showed an intentional killing. The defense maintained the state had no reliable cause of death. Casey was arrested and held as the case grew. Court documents reveal she made statements from jail calls. Those calls became part confession, part performance, depending on who listened. The evidence showed she continued to reference the fictional nanny. Prosecutors argued she was building a false narrative. The defense maintained she was trapped in a lie she could not escape. In December 2008, the search reached a grim point. Kaylee's skeletal remains were found in a wooded area near the Anthony home. According to testimony, the remains were scattered and degraded. A skull and bones became the center of a courtroom war. The evidence showed duct tape was found associated with the remains. Prosecutors argued it meant suffocation and murder. The defense maintained the scene did not prove how Kaylee died. They argued that animals and weather could distort any interpretation. They also argued that the duct tape evidence was not as clean as it looked. Court documents reveal experts disagreed about the tape's placement and meaning. Reasonable doubt began to take shape. Pre-trial motions shaped what the jury would hear. The judge ruled on scientific evidence, expert limits, and media access. According to court documents reveal, both sides fought over forensic testimony. Prosecutors argued the science was strong enough to infer homicide. The defense maintained the science was uncertain, and uncertainty is not proof. Jury selection became its own trial. Potential jurors admitted they had seen headlines for years. Many had strong opinions about Casey before hearing evidence. The judge ruled that jurors must promise fairness, not ignorance. Attorneys searched for people who could separate disgust from proof. The courtroom filled with quiet tension. Opening statements drew clear lines. Prosecutors argued Kaylee was drugged with chloroform and suffocated with duct tape. They said Casey wanted freedom and removed her child to get it. The defense maintained Kaylee drowned accidentally in the family pool. They said a cover-up followed, driven by fear and family dysfunction. Drop a comment. Do you think the verdict was fair? And then the prosecution revealed their key evidence. The prosecution built a case from circumstantial pieces. According to testimony, they highlighted the 31-day delay in reporting Kaylee missing. They emphasized lies about the nanny and the job. They played jail calls and police interviews. Prosecutors argued the lies were not random, but strategic. The evidence showed the trunk odor debate became central. Experts testified about decomposition indicators and chemical compounds. Prosecutors argued the smell meant a body had been in the car. The defense maintained alternative sources could explain it. They attacked methods, contamination risks, and interpretation bias. Science turned into theater, but the stakes were real. Prosecutors also leaned on computer searches. According to testimony, searches included chloroform and other disturbing terms. The state argued those searches supported premeditation. The defense maintained the timing, and user could not be proven. They suggested Cindy could have used the computer. They argued the state could not place Casey at the keyboard. If this case is gripping you, hit that like button. The prosecution called family members, and the pain was visible. According to testimony, George and Cindy described the last time they saw Kaylee. They described arguments with Casey and growing suspicion. Cindy's 911 call echoed again in court. Prosecutors argued the family's fear matched the physical evidence. Yet the state still faced the hardest gap. No witness saw Kaylee die. No confession described a method. The medical examiner could not state a definitive cause of death. Court documents reveal the remains were too compromised for certainty. Prosecutors argued homicide was the only reasonable explanation. The defense maintained uncertainty must mean acquittal. The defense strategy was bold and volatile. The defense maintained Kaylee drowned in the pool and was discovered by George. They claimed Casey was traumatized and controlled by her father. They accused George of sexual abuse and manipulation. According to testimony, the allegations stunned the courtroom. George denied it, and the claim reshaped the trial's emotional weather. Cross-examination targeted every forensic claim. The defense maintained experts' overstated conclusions and ignored limits. They questioned lab procedures and sample handling. They challenged the idea that duct tape proved suffocation. They argued the tape could have been placed after death. The evidence showed jurors heard competing experts with equal confidence. The defense also reframed Casey's lies. They said she lied because she had learned to lie at home. They said she lied because admitting the truth would expose family secrets. Prosecutors argued that explanation was invented for trial. The defense maintained it explained the pattern of deception. The jury had to decide which story fit the evidence. The jury had heard enough, but they were not ready for this. Closing arguments demanded a final choice. Prosecutors argued that every lie, every search, and every odor pointed one direction. They said Kaylee could not speak, so evidence must speak for her. They asked jurors to hold Casey accountable for a child's death. They argued reasonable doubt was not imaginary doubt. The defense maintained the state's case was a stack of assumptions. They reminded jurors that the cause of death was unknown. They argued that if the method is unknown, intent cannot be proven. They said the state tried to satisfy public outrage with uncertain science. They asked jurors to follow law, not headlines. The judge ruled on instructions and reminded jurors of the burden. He emphasized that the state must prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt. He reminded them that Casey did not have to prove anything. Casey did not testify, and silence became its own controversy. But the law allowed that silence without penalty. Jurors retreated to deliberate under intense secrecy. Outside, crowds gathered with signs and cameras. Inside, the jury reviewed testimony, exhibits, and definitions. Court documents revealed deliberations lasted about 11 hours. Some expected weeks, not hours. The speed fueled suspicion, but speed is not a legal error. After deliberation, the foreman stood up. The verdict was read slowly, count by count. The jury found not guilty on first-degree murder. The jury found not guilty on aggravated manslaughter of a child. The jury found not guilty on aggravated child abuse. The jury found guilty on 2 counts of lying to law enforcement. Gasps and sobs cut through the room. Casey's reaction was restrained, almost stunned. Her defense team showed relief that looked like exhaustion. Prosecutors sat rigid, absorbing the impact. Kaylee's grandparents wept, and the nation watched. Prosecutors argued afterward that they believed the evidence was enough. The defense maintained the jury honored the burden of proof. Sentencing followed the narrow convictions. The judge ruled Casey would receive a sentence tied to the lying counts. She had 4 years credit for time served. She was released days after the verdict. Appeals later changed the record further. Court documents revealed 2 additional lying counts were thrown out on appeal. The aftermath was a second storm. Many believed justice failed Kaylee. Others believed the system worked as designed. Without a proven cause of death, the murder case could not stand. The legal impact was a lesson in circumstantial limits. It also became a warning about trial by media pressure. Where are they now? The prosecution team dispersed into other roles and cases. Judge Belvin Perry Jr. retired and later served as a legal analyst and educator. Casey Anthony lived privately in Florida with rare media appearances. Court documents reveal her public image remained toxic and polarizing. George and Cindy continued interviews, still chasing closure. The state of Florida versus Casey Marie Anthony reminds us that justice is never simple. Share this video with someone who cares about justice. Drop a comment with your verdict. Guilty or not guilty? Hit like and subscribe to Gavel Files for more cases where justice tells its story. Next week, we examine another case that shook the nation.